So, little flock, this is the last Sunday where we will say Christos Anesti during this Paschal season. This Thursday, we will have the Feast of the Ascension of the Lord, and that will be the absolute, the day before will be the absolute last day to say Christos Anesti. So, Christos Anesti.
Christos Anesti.
So this past week, I sent out a listserv announcement, and if anyone is not on our listserv and you would like to be to receive our news, please let me know. I'd love to include you on the news that we send out. Once in a while I send out things when I get inspired to do something. And this last week, on the occasion of my twins' birthday, William and Gabby, I sent out a video from the Archdiocese that did a number of months ago, actually, but I don't know, I just wanted to share it with you. And it was about our family, and specifically on William, who has overcome so much in his young life after being diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And I want to thank you for your kind responses to me for the video. I tell you, it's very uplifting. And what that video showed is actually the theme of what I want to speak about today. Now, first of all, after watching the video myself, I began reflecting, and seeing my children when they were young, and I began reflecting on my parenthood, how I dealt with them as father. And for sure, I almost every day, I'm a bit of a jokester. I love making them laugh. I love seeing them happy and laugh. I love their laughter. And so I also had tender moments with them as well. I liked putting them to bed and telling them little stories, little things. But to be totally honest with you, and full disclosure, I was not always happy with my parenting. On occasion, when I was tired or had some misdirected anger, I resorted to bullying tactics to my children in order to achieve immediate results. I chose to use the power of my position as father, which can be very intimidating to a young child, rather than taking the time to respect their personhood and their own efforts at developing and figuring things out for themselves, to meet them where they were, rather than having them demanding that they live up to some standard that I had already made. In those times, I always thought to myself, I could have done a better job there. I could have chosen humility and understanding over power and have achieved, if not the same results, perhaps even better. Anyway, then my thoughts, speaking of parenthood, then my thoughts turned to the mother of that 18-year-old shooter in Uvalde, Texas at Robb Elementary School. In an interview with the reporters, she told the victims of the families and to all America, please forgive me. Please forgive my son. Parenting. I'm sure there's an art form to it, but I have the sense that no matter how good we are at parenting, and even if we lived up to some textbook model and ideal, and even if our child had every advantage, there's no guarantee that they can turn out well-adjusted and well-balanced. And conversely, even if our children grew up with many disadvantages, and crippling and disease or handicap of some sort, or an uncaring family system, you never know. That child can surprise you by having within them a good disposition that you never had and a resiliency that you never had. And as I reflected on today's gospel lesson, I think I found a young man like that, who, if you think about it, had every reason to be bitter and belligerent and antagonistic and pessimistic about life. He came into this world without eyes. The man born blind. The disciples, when they saw this young man, they said to the Lord, they asked the Lord, Lord, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born like this? The Lord responded, it is not that this man sinned or his parents, that he was born blind, but rather that the works of God may be manifest in him. In other words, the Lord, in his wisdom, shifts the focus from the cause of his blindness to the purpose of his blindness, and that is that the works of the Lord may be manifest in him. In other words, the Lord, for his own reasons, omitted to form the blind man's eyes in his mother's womb. But today, he supplies those eyes in full public view. Great miracle, again and again, so that the works of the Lord might be made manifest in him. And one of the works, I want to tell you, one of the works came from the man himself, how he patiently endured his affliction. And the Lord wants us to take notice of that, of a person who patiently endures. He does it all the time. He calls people out, maybe insults them, maybe he ignores them, but for the purpose of showing the world their resiliency, their patient endurance in affliction. St. John Chrysostom points this out by saying, this was a man who was worthy of healing, a courageous and faithful man who had not been soured by life and given himself over to bitterness. He goes on to say that when Christ anointed the man's eyes with clay, he didn't complain. When Christ told him to go to Siloam and wash himself, he didn't complain. Just simple obedience. The Lord lifts that up. Can you imagine if the Lord asked of that from someone from Philadelphia or New York? Hey, what are you putting mud on my face for? What is this? What? Go Siloam? You expect me to go to Siloam? I've been there 100 times. Nothing's happened. It was nothing like that from this man. He wasn't sarcastic. He wasn't contrary. He just obeyed. I wonder, my friends, are we capable of mustering up the faith to believe that when it comes to our lack, whatever we lack in our lives, whatever radical unfulfillment or hunger that we feel, can we dare to believe that that lack is there not because of your fault, but rather that the glory of God may be manifest in your very lack? That's why I think that video of my son is a testimony to today's gospel. My son, who lacks the proper tone in his legs, who lacks the ability to balance himself, nonetheless, like the blind man, because of his resiliency, because of his good nature and disposition, the works of God were manifested in him, and it showed in that video. Lord, every one of us here lacks something. We ask that you fulfill that lack, Lord, but more than that, we ask that your glory be manifest in us as well. God bless you today, my friends. Amen.